there's no such thing. I always labeled everything as a problem. I was like, all right, that's a problem, blah, blah, blah. Well, problems are something that's broke. And so when you turn the verbiage now into a challenge, it's like, how do I win?
All right, welcome back to the Mac podcast, where we talk about everything in entrepreneurship, business, real estate, and we always challenge the conventional thinking. So if you're ready to create some success yourself and not follow the herd, then you're in the right spot. And today I got a cool guest. If you are into solving problems, or if you have trouble solving problems, I think we have the right guy in the house. He's a youth pastor. He runs a huge material handling operation where they sell products. He also drives a Raptor and owns a Tesla, similar to me. We got to taste the 𝗨𝗲𝗄𝗆 tequila right before this, so it should make this for the best episode ever. Ben, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate it.
How you doing?
Good.
Well, you know, I always open these with like, what are you doing right now? Like, what consumes your days in business?
People.
People.
In a good manner. I mean, with the problem solving, conflict resolution is a big part of what I do. And
okay.
It's, so in the internal customer service, I mean, that's probably a big thing that I deal with is just the people.
Yeah. And I said material handling, but I probably didn't say that right?
It's structural materials. It's concrete supply products. So anything from rebar to grout to fabric. I mean, anything that goes near concrete or down anywhere near that, we supply it. So I
think you brought that down. Like, there is a crap load of products that go into concrete. So like, how many products do you carry approximately? Because like, I think it's not like you got a shop of like 10 things in there.
No, it's we're going to start moving to a barcoding system next year just to make our inventory just go that much smoother. And they're like, oh yeah, it'll be not a big deal. And they're like, how many products do you have in your SKUs do you have? I'm like 7,000. Like, wow. And so I mean, there's so many different products. I mean, you got how many different nails? I mean, how many different steaks? You got 40 different boxes of each side. I mean, it's insane how much product there is. So. So teaching people about the product too, inside and our internal customers, people that work for us. I mean, it's hard to, like, the customer turnover. That was internal customer employees. That was a big thing for me to get away from and build culture. Because it's, I mean, the cost to rehire and reteach is, unfortunately, it's just, you get what you pay for sometimes. And so it's like, all right, how do we teach everybody about these 7,000 pieces of stuff?
And how long have you been doing that? Like, when did you?
So I got in structural 4.5 years ago.
Wow.
I mean,
you guys have like I used to be in the concrete biz, or well, I mean, I am in the concrete biz. I just am not like physically in your shop anymore. But you guys have very low turnover. Yeah, yours low. I was just golfing with a guy who was new, and he's like, I've been there 4 or 5 months. He loves it already. He's
Travis,
like, Travis. And I didn't even know, of course I'm not in there, but it's like you have very low turnover, or you have room for promotion. Like, you're doing things that, you guys are scaling and moving bigger and bigger and bigger ideas, which is great.
Yeah, we're constantly just trying to expand and grow. But yeah, our culture is huge. I mean, it's about the people. And I've tried teaching everybody that, and I've learned from my mentor, Mike, I mean, the owner. I mean, he's taught me so much, but it really is. There's a book out there that talks about, it's the Positive Leadership by John Gordon, and what it is, it talks about just like, there's tactics you can use, and that gets you so far to like a point, but then you got to use tactics again. And if you can find a way to like enjoy the journey and get people motivated daily and just enjoy life, you're not using tactics anymore. You're creating genuine relationships, so they want to be a part of the situation. And yeah, we care about the people that we work with. I mean, anybody can call me. There's 150 phone numbers they can call me at any time. I tell you what, that's, and I love it. And, but then we have such great leaders that they care for everybody in their positions too. So yeah, turnover we really strive away from that. It's not fun. Yeah. I mean, it's, you never want to be put in that position. And I've been in that position. I've seen it in others. Nobody likes that. Yeah. It's not enjoyable.
You see turnover, like, so many big companies are just numbers driven. Yeah. They're purely on the numbers. Yeah. You're going to have ups and downs years. I'm sure you guys as well. I mean, it's business. At the end of the day, it's like you learn. But at the end of the day, as long as you can keep the same people, you have people turning at your business because A, you're not giving them new opportunities. Yep. B, you know what I mean? You got to be growing. Yeah. Or B, you're just not spending enough time getting to know your people. Like I did interviews on this podcast of most of my people. Yep. And I learned more about them in that 1 hour conversation that was just deep, focused conversation,
like genuine, like interested in, and it's
yeah.
Yep.
And all those people are still, around, and we still have a lot of conversations. So it's like, I don't know, culture is huge, and you got to avoid the numbers.
Yeah.
And it can't always be a numbers driven deal.
Correct.
It's not like, chop head, you didn't make.
Yeah, you're gone.
Yeah,
it's like, I mean, and that's a big thing, is learning people's strengths and be like, all right, what do you want to do? Because when people have a passion behind what they do, it's like they will go. But it's like if you put them in the wrong, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole is the analogy I was taught, and it's so true. If you got a guy in the wrong spot, it's like you're just grinding teeth, and it's like, is that worth it?
Yeah.
And it's not, is it worth it? But it's like, is it worth it for them, like mentally too? It's like they're in the wrong spot. They're not going to like this.
Yeah.
I mean,
we had a guy in the wrong spot for almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Moved him into a different seat. He likes his job more, and he's not miserable.
Yeah. Life is good. Win-win.
Yeah. Do you guys, just as a question, do you use a DISC assessment, personality index, like a predictive index, I think is what it's called?
Not yet. A lot of it's been mental, like just watching, observing, and going, okay,
this is Ben.
Yeah. Where do you see the friction? Where do you see the stress come from? And if it's something like, all right, it doesn't seem like you enjoy that. And it's like, so a lot of it's kind of just natural. I mean, I love people, and so I'm constantly observing and going, okay, what makes them tick for themselves, not for my game, but for their game. Because I don't want them to come to work and, like, being married with 4 kids, I like my kids and wife more than anybody else.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to spend 50 to 60 hours away from them, I'm not going to let you have a bad life. So I'm going to find out what motivates you to be encouraged every day. Because I love my kids, and when I don't get to see them, you better have a good life, because it's not worth it. Otherwise, you can't like your life, and if you don't like your life, probably not going to like working with me. And so it's right now it's been constant, which takes a lot of energy. Coffee's it's a big proponent of my life.
It should be probably part of any entrepreneurs or any high level business operators out there. So, well, how did you get into this material handling company, Structural Materials? How did you get into that? And where'd you start from?
Well, we can start. So, I mean, I had businesses prior, and an opportunity showed itself, and I was like, all right, it was, we need somebody to run the inside warehouse of this structural fabrication. And I was like, all right. So I stepped into that, and all I did was just watch and observe. And I mean, I was on the floor working. There's nothing that I wouldn't do or couldn't do or ask anybody to do. And so I just spent a lot of time spending time on the floor. And then as we kept growing and new equipment came and new opportunities came, I was like, all right. So then I started to watch, okay, how do I make this better? Yeah. I mean, the owners of the company had visionaries in front of it, and I was like, I'm going to make their life better. And I said, while I'm here, I'm going to make your company great. I mean, that was my goal. And so I looked at it, and I saw opportunities, and then there was a chance where we were doing fabrication, and I'm like, all right, the salesman's spending 30 minutes doing this task. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So like, I'm that kind of guy. There's got to be a better way. And so I taught myself how to code. And by teaching myself how to code, most people that say that, we go on Google, and we Google like, hey, what code do you use? And so you copy and paste code, you switch the code, you program it, you try it, you test it out until you
wait a minute. What the hell is a code?
Like if-then statements. I mean, code in the back of the computer. Not like 01010, like not that.
Okay.
So that's a different level.
Will AI do code for you now?
Okay, so I love ChatGPT. So when that first came out, everybody's like, we hate chat. I'm like, no, it's a tool like anything else. And so I've used that. I'm like, hey, if I have this, how do you optimize this? And it spits out the code. And I love AI. I love what it does. But back then, because
I don't know how to write code. Like I'd have to ask OpenAI.
Yeah, neither do I. I mean, I went to school for computer science right away, because I mean, I love problem solving. And as I'm going into that, not to rabbit trail, but they gave me the test. I was the first one in my class, highest score, and then the final was a written test. They hand me the paper, and I'm like, yeah, I can't probably do this as well as this, so I'm probably going to fail. And I'm not feeling confident about that. And they're like, well, too bad. And I'm like, me being arrogant 19 at NDSU passes the test back to them and says, okay, walked out. And But I loved the class, but I was arrogant at 19, and I was like, you're going to tell me what to do? I ain't going to do that. Like, I walked away. But anyway, so I mean, I knew it was in my brain a little bit, but Google was my AI then. So copy to paste, put the code, and took a 15, 20-minute system that they were doing and turned it into one button on a keyboard. And so then I looked, I'm like, all right, well, he is doing sales. Why is he doing this? Let's have him not do this, and let's put a system in place so he can go do that, because tape and tags isn't making us money. I mean, or them money at that. Yeah. It was like, that was the thing. It's like, and they were supportive of all that. Okay. And slowly I did that. And then so I was watching the one warehouse, and then Mike goes, okay, I'm going to have you do this and this. And he just kept putting me in position to not sink or swim, but just trust.
Yeah.
I mean, because I cared about the company. It's his company. I told him while I'm here, I'm going to do everything in my power to make it good for you. And I feel like I have, and I feel like it has to do with like caring for the people, looking for opportunities to remove friction from internal customers. And then if there's external customers that are coming in and something's not right, how do I fix it? Like, so trying to train my brain from going fixing to being proactive is kind of the struggle, because when you're constantly in that firefighter state, I mean, that's a challenge. But yeah, I just slowly kind of moved up, ran one warehouse, and then all of a sudden was doing kind of overseeing both, and then was kind of really put in the director of operation role to kind of like sit at 50,000 feet and just kind of watch. But kind of also during that time, we had a structural block. So it was we manufactured block out of Fergus Falls, and and my job was to also make that company mesh with this company, which meshed with this company. So I had 3 companies that I was meshing together to function properly and remove well, they're not our company. Like, we're all on the same team. Like, you got to remove your emotions. Let's make it function. And so, and then that went well. They ended up having to sell that company at some point, and they moved on past that one, and then they refocused. And then, I just kept sitting in that position at 50,000 feet.
Wow.
And now I'm working with the outside sales team and kind of just helping that a little bit alongside Mike. I mean, Mike is the head. He is the visionary of that company, and he is it's an honorable thing to be able to work next to him, and it's pretty cool. So just slowly went up, and
that's good for you. So in EOS, he would be the visionary, you'd be the integrator type. I mean, that's really the role that you strive at that you love that.
Oh, I love helping. I mean, the visionary, I have a little bit of that. I mean, I can see him like, well, if we do this, and I'm like, we're gonna go that way. But he's definitely he's Mike.
He's the big thinker, out there. Dude, I like that. That's what, how do you and him work together then? Like, he has these big ideas, and do you hold him back? Do you you know what I mean? How do you try to turn his visions into a reality?
That energy, it's quite entertaining. I mean, the things he does, I mean, it's amazing to watch. And a lot of it has to do with him seeing opportunity, and some of it I don't even know about, which is totally kosher. So I'm like, all right, go. Yeah, I mean, he just goes, but a lot of it's his relationships, and then it's just an idea, and then poof, and then just goes. But there's other opportunities, like he's got a roasted rail in Dilworth. He's got all these other little businesses.
Okay.
And one of it's like, what do you do here? And it's like, all right, well, this is what I would do, and I tell him, and it's like, all right, go. And so a lot of it's, if the idea is presented to me, then I will help him. But I don't seek it, because he'll tell me. And that's the thing. I trust him so much that he'll tell me when I'm needed. And if I'm not, I respect that. I used to be like, well, why is nobody telling me what's going on? Kind of thing. That insecurity, like, where's my value now? But I grew out of that. And it was like, when he needs me, he'll tell me.
Okay.
Just trusting him. And I learned a lot from that. So
So he takes it as a visionary, kind of starts things off?
Yeah, he is the 100% entrepreneur if I've ever met one. I mean, he's been doing it since he was young, and that's how his mind works. And it's an amazing thing to watch. I mean, I would say you're in that direct. I mean, what you do, I mean,
visionary type guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I struggle with things that you're very good at.
Yeah. And I love doing it. And that's the thing. And I think he saw that. And so he would just implement that into different things. And I mean, again, there's a million things going on with him, but it's awesome to be next to that, that mental, I call it superior, like superpower of visionary. I mean, it's pretty cool.
Well, you have a superpower, and that's in problem solving.
Yeah.
So we were talking a little bit about before this, and I know we kind of talked about it before, but like, how do you saw the salesman, and you're like, hey, why are they putting tags on? And they need to be selling things.
Yeah.
Like, that's what they're good at. That's what we hired them for.
Yeah.
How do you, just look at the 50,000 foot view? How do you hone in on I always think 10X versus 2, is better than 2X. How do you hone in on
Grant Cardone's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it was a Dan Sullivan book, but how do you hone in on a specific area to do you just go for where the fires are brightest and then kind of hone in on it and then be
so I kind of look,
how do you find the problems?
The bottleneck.
Okay.
And I find the bottleneck. I'm like, all right, where is causing the backup? And there was one time it was rail cars, BNSF. you hear things about BNSF in the world. I have the craziest, cool relationship with them. We work with them directly, and it was like, all right, I got to know 2 guys on the ground that I consider good friends, and it was like through them, I got to take a thing that, let's say we'll just use random numbers. Let's say we got 10 rail cars, and there's demerge and all these other fees that could happen, and before I got involved, we'd have thousands of dollars of fees in this, and nobody really knew why. I'm like, okay, well, that's a product we use a lot. How do I remove what's going on? And so once I got to figure out, okay, this is how the system works, I'm like, all right, well, let's open the door of communication. And once that problem was solved, it was like, oh yeah, like, and for me, again, it's the guys on the ground are just as important the guys that are down in Houston running BNSF, because they're human beings that they need to be cared for and have a genuine relationship. And I was like, all right, that's what's going on. And I can't speak highly enough about BNSF and what they've done. Like, it's been a game changer, but there was a bottleneck. I'm like, all right, what's going on? So open the door of conversation, poof. I was like, changed the whole game.
Really?
I mean, yeah. And so that's just like that coding kind of thing. Looking, I'm like, all right, so I see what he's supposed to be doing is not what he's doing, and we know that. So I would look for that. I'd look for that opportunity to find the bottleneck, and sometimes that can be a fault. It's like, well, now you're just looking for problems. I'm like, kind of, but I like to fix things. I'm like, where's the opportunity lie? And it's like, it opens the door. If it opens the door to something, let's go after it.
Got it.
Yeah.
So if there's a small business owner listening to this, whether it could be 5 or 6, or maybe they got 20 people, 30 people, if they're, some people stay in their business so much, right?
Yeah.
You're an integrator. You're very in the business too. You're not always on it.
No.
You're not at the 50,000 foot view. How do you start nitpicking everything?
Yeah.
How do you back up and then try to look?
Yeah. How do you separate yourself from?
Well, and back up a little bit and just view the whole operation. What is the bottleneck again? How do you identify that?
Yeah. Taking time to reflect and be like, all right, what is the big picture, and remembering what your vision is. I think so many people forget, like, where are we going? Like, where do you want to go? What's the end product supposed to look like? And they get sucked into the details. I'm like, yeah, but if you can step back just for like a day and be like, all right, what is the hiccup that's causing me to get to my vision? And if they can figure out, okay, well, I need this or I need that. Okay, well, and then just break it down. I mean, breaking problems down to their simplest form, best solution you can do.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, looking at that and going, okay, where's the bottleneck, and what's preventing me from excelling and generating more revenue? What's in the way? If it's in the way, okay, let's find a way to address it. And I was taught by Mike and Dale Carnegie. I mean, there's no such thing. I always labeled everything as a problem. I was like, all right, that's a problem, blah, blah, blah. Well, problems are something that's broke. And so when you turn the verbiage now into a challenge, it's like, how do I win?
Yeah.
Like, I was very competitive. I always wanted to win. And so it's like, how do I win at this challenge?
Yeah.
And then it turns your mindset too. Like, all right, so what challenges are we facing? So the bottlenecks are challenged more so than a problem. Because if you have that problem mentality, you're like, something's broke. Well, it's probably not broke. It just, how do you win at that situation? So taking a step back and just like, okay, where do you want to go? That's the remembering. I think that's the biggest thing that people forget to do, is remember where you want to go. They can just get stuck in day to day to day.
Well, you're a big culture company, and which is great, right?
Yep.
Low turnover. How do you take key people that you want to hold on to forever, and you notice that they're in the wrong seat, or that maybe they have to move sideways, convert? How do you keep people there, but redetermine their role or whatever? You know what I mean? I'm sure just because you guys move through so many different levels so quickly, and you've held on to all your people and been very successful. How do you do that? And keep
it's a challenge. I mean, for sure, because I mean, you're dealing with conflict, because it's like, well, I'm doing this, but we kind of want to shift you over here. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And that's the brass tacks of reality of dealing with problems of like, you're in the wrong spot. But finding like how to get you in the right spot. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Again, Mike's done such a good job over the long term that he set a lot of them up. And what then I come along now is like, all right, how do I get the next person in the right spot? And so it's been kind of fun. It's some people are like, I don't really like the construction supply industry. And I'm like, you might not.
It's happened,
so,
I'm sure.
But over the last 3 years, and it's really putting the right leaders in the right spot and giving them the right tools to succeed, so they know how to mentor the next person and set them up for success.
Gotcha.
That for me, that's been, we've had such a good success at that, is giving them the tools right away and addressing, okay, where do you want to go? And the biggest thing is asking them right away, what do you want to do? What is your passion? Because if you're passionate about people, let's put you in a position that's dealing with people. And last year, one of the gentlemen, he said, what do you want to do? He's very processy. like in a good way. Like he likes a process. We're like, all right, what do you want to do? Well, I want to be in a position that's putting a process in place and follow it through. We're like, all right, so we put him in this position. Perfect. I mean, it just like made everything streamlined. Didn't have to deal with stuff. He took a lot of the kinks out of it, and then we were able to follow that system, and it worked perfectly. That's what. But he didn't want to be go out and meet everybody and mingle with everybody. Like he's like, this is what I want to do. We're like, let's put you in that position then.
So did you create that position? Did
the one I did? Yeah.
Is that a different type of role? Like, is it you're in the corporation, not all the?
It was so
areas?
we basically had same. It was kind of similar to a little bit what I was doing. I'd look at it and I'm like, all right, I want these two companies kind of mesh. I'm like, well, what if you kind of look over both of them? Because I asked him, like, what do you want to do? And he just says that. I'm like, I know what we're going to do. And then I was like, we're going to put you here. You're going to be the funnel for both of these two places, and you're going to have the data and spread it out so that everything comes to you, and then you make sure the end process is balanced between the two. And so then so it was basically a creative position, and it took a lot of the double communication out of the systems. And it was like, we're going to operate as not one, but just the communication's going to be cleaner. And it took it to a different level. It was just like, this makes more sense. Yeah. And so it's kind of a creative position for the guy, and that's the challenge too. Is like you can't create positions for everybody. And
well, and that's what I was getting at.
That's a tough thing.
Yeah, right. You take key people, and you don't want to create specialty roles. They tell you not to do that, right?
Yeah.
And in some book or some fashion, they teach that. But people have different strengths, and you're obviously very good at identifying that or getting them to identify it with
or
them.
Pretending. I don't know. It seems like it's working. That's the joke we made yesterday. Like things just seem good because we have such good people, and when you look at structural fab, like it is the people, like 100%. I mean, while I might be problem solving and dealing with some of the stuff, it is the team that is that company. I mean, it doesn't matter if they're outside sales or they're working in the fab. It does not matter. Like they are on one unit, and it's, I mean, everybody goes through their phases in life of like, why do they do that? Well, the grass is always greener on the other side. Go water the grass there and see if you like it. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to answer my phone at 8:00 at night. Well, there's a balance of life, and but yeah, it's a lot of fun to do that. Yeah. Well,
that's I could see the challenges with that. All right. So you do some youth pastor. Like how do those roles kind of combine together? Obviously you're passionate about that. You don't just become that.
Yeah. I mean, my faith is huge to me. I mean, I've been a Christian since I was a kid, and I think for me, Christ is my king, and he always will be. And it was a thing that affected me when I gave my life to Christ when I was 4th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. And I knew at that moment that I was like, I know a secret that people don't know about. And internally, I'm like, people should know this. And my whole life, I knew I was called to some kind of something. I was like, I got to tell people about this good news. I'm like, they should know that he died for you. Like, this is a big deal. And then, so I went through the journey of life and got through high school and college. And in college, I was like, someday I want to be a preacher. I want to tell people about the gospel. Like, this is what I want to do. And I get to English in college, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be entertaining. And I failed English. And failed speech horribly. Like, I mean, I was like, this is not going well. And they basically pulled me aside. If you don't go into a leadership role. Don't go into a speaking role. Don't get in front of people, basically. And they did nothing wrong. They were trying to protect me based on how I was. And I was like, I get it. And it just took some time for me to like accept that. But I'm like, no, I know what I'm supposed to do. And so then we go to a church in Horace, Harvest Valley Church, and it's an amazing church in Horace. Okay. And there was an opportunity, and I'm like, hey, we need a youth group here. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And so I just saw the opportunity. I was like, I stepped into that role, and it's been just awesome. The kids are awesome. Okay. And so I get to do that every Wednesday night, and yeah, it's cool to tell the story too, because I'd explained to them Wednesday. Say it's Friday. Whatever it is. Wednesday night, about how like I was told I wasn't going to do something that the world is telling me, hey, don't do this. Yet I knew God had called me to do something. I said, do you guys understand? Like they told me no, yet I'm standing in front of you guys and I'm preaching a sermon to you guys, and they all like, yeah, we know. I'm like, see, like don't listen to the world. Yeah. The world will tell you everything under the sun, but if God's called you to do something, do it. Like that's and for a while, I was like, all right, I can't be involved in business. I can't do that. I'm like, no, I'm leading people in the youth group. I'm also leading people at work. And like, it's caring. It's really just being genuine and caring for people, a lot of it. So yeah. It's
you're helping a lot of people. I mean, I'm
it.
sure that brings satisfaction and
Oh, yeah.
gratification to you. And
Yeah.
I think anyone that, is open with their faith is,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You're not, a bad day is not a bad day, right? Like
Perspective.
Perspective.
Yeah.
I wear some bands some charities that we do.
Yeah.
I, probably not as open about my faith as some,
Yep.
and I don't express it as much, but I think it does bring a lot of, a bad day is never a bad day. It's like, let's get real.
It could always be worse.
Oh,
like
gosh.
when you think about it, like, so in my faith world, I use that and people are like, I'm like, well, how bad could it be? And I'm like, well, then what? And I play this then what until they're like, well, then you die. I'm like, then, all right, now let's talk. Then what? I'm like, well, which place are you going to?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're always like, well, aren't you the religious guy that like talks about Revelation? I'm like, no, that's not me. I love Jesus. And they're like, Revelation, that's scary. I'm like, not if you know what side you're on. It's not. Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, but again, it's like you can play that what if game till the very end, and it's like it could always be worse.
Right.
Like, always be worse. And that's what I try to instill at the youth group and at work is like, it could always be worse. Like, take a step back, take a breather, and go like, how bad is it?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's actually not that bad. Yeah, it's not. It's okay. Like, it is okay. Like, we will get through this. Tomorrow's going to come whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
And that's kind of for me was the reality is like, tomorrow's going to come. I don't care. I can't do anything about that. So it's like, I'm going to enjoy every day. Happiness is a choice. It's not an automatic reaction.
Right.
And I've told myself that since I was a kid. I'm like, I have to find a way to choose to be happy and then follow that. So, yeah.
Right. I think in business, like, it relates to business, relates to your kids. Like, be optimistic with the future. Like, the problem's right now to be pessimistic. You could find all the reasons not to do something.
Yeah.
But find some reasons to do something. And it's amazing.
It's natural. And our pastor, Randy, he made the perfect, and he goes, it's natural to complain. You don't have to teach a child to complain. Like, I don't hear many children like right in the first year, like they're all happy. It's mine or they complain. You have to work at that and you got to teach them. I mean, it's no different than adults that haven't had anybody like spend time with them. Like, hey, life is good. You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like, you never know what people's past is either. So that's why you never judge a book by its cover. I mean, it's easy to, but you got to go, okay, what's actually going on? Well, I never had anybody teach me right and wrong. Okay, let's work with that then. When this is not right, this is wrong. I mean, we have some young kids that are working and it's like, well, I might not have had a father figure teach. I'm like, I am a father. I'll teach you. Like, I want you to have a good life. And so it's like, I'll teach you right from wrong. And not that it's the ultimate right or wrong, but it's like what I view as like, maybe don't do this, maybe do this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So
when you approach, obviously we're talking a lot about problem solving, right?
Yeah.
And navigating, and you seem to eat the frog with them.
Yeah.
You have no problem attacking them. What is your approach like if someone can't find the way to problem solve? Like, do you say someone comes to you with a problem, right?
Yep.
And I have a thing like, don't bring me a problem, bring me a solution.
yes.
And I've heard there's different methods. The 1-3-1 method. Basically, they come with a problem, provide three solutions, and you recommend one, right?
Yep.
And what's your method? Like
that method.
Is it okay? 1-3-1. All right,
I love
good.
that method. Sometimes I'll get
I was onto something.
Sometimes I'll get two answers. I'm like, that's close enough to three if you round up. But I mean, it's like I enjoy that, and it is trying to teach people like, hey, there's not a huge dilemma here. Let's go to the core, simplify it. Okay, what's the problem at stake, and what are we facing? Okay, give me some solutions, and then let's identify which solution is the best. And I again learned that from Mike as well, because he's like, all right, what's the problem? And the first time I brought him a problem, he's like, all right, figure it out. I'm like, okay. And then it was like I was like, all right, so what if I bring you like a couple answers? And I between him, my twin brother, he was raised the same way in that mentality. It's like, bring the problem to light and then give three solutions. And that's, I've learned from Mike and my brother, my dad. I mean, I've learned that over life, and I love that solution. I'm trying to teach my kids that.
Right.
Like when they're complaining about the brother, oh, your brother hit you? What's the three solutions you have? Do you get him back, or do you say like, hey, that wasn't like, give me the three solutions and I'll help guide you. Just come up with three solutions. It's not the end of the world if you don't figure it out right away.
Yep. And kids' problems are pretty small. I test a lot of things on my kids.
Oh, yeah.
Like how to get them motivated to go to bed, or like, that's like my testing ground for my negotiation skills.
Yeah. Chris Voss.
Yeah, I say brushed up with it. Like the kids are warriors too.
Yeah.
Like they're the best negotiators.
Yeah, there's his name, Chris Voss. If you Black Swan Group, Never Split the Difference. Yeah,
absolutely.
And I tried that on my kids. And
Did you?
Yeah, humans love to say no. It is natural. So I'm like, hey kids, I know this might make seem like a bad dad right now. Is it disrespectful of me to ask you to go to bed? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, let's go to bed then.
Yeah.
But they instantly was no. And so, it was,
You have to, Brandon Dawson's a guy in business, and you gotta make it their idea. No different in sales. You got to make it their idea to buy the deal, whatever it is.
Yeah. That's Dale Carnegie too.
Is it? Okay.
Oh yeah. Dale Carnegie. Yeah. He's, I
just heard that. I love that one. I love
Dale Carnegie. And, we have, I think 9 people going through the class right now, Dale Carnegie in Fargo.
Yeah.
And it really is to help them like better their understanding of dealing with problems as well. But it's a tool. Like they teach you all these tools that you can use in life, inside work and outside work. And it's amazing to see what people come out of it. It's like, okay, it's like, yeah. And then they see that and like, all right, how do I get somebody motivated? And when they're part of the solution, they are part of the solution and it is part of their success. Like it's not a manipulative, like, hey, if you go do it, it's like, it's legit. Like you help solve it. You are a benefactor in this now. Like you are part of this. And it's like, then their value is there. They care about who they are. It's in the situation and it's genuine.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that positive leadership because if you use tactics and use it the wrong way, it's like, I wrote one article about like the most precious thing we have is time, and it's a currency that we have. And I said the one thing that people look for in currency in the world is fake currency. And if you're spending time with people and you're fake about it, it's like people are going to recognize that. Don't be genuine and have them like people love to solve things and be a part of things. They love to have a true value of who they are. Help them do that.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's what I mean. I love when people are part of solutions because it's like,
oh yeah,
you get to see like you did something, and it's not like I want you to have a good life. I want you to see like you are a huge factor in this world. Like you should do what you think is right, but like be motivated.
Yeah, and I'll give it a plug. I mean, if you like what we're talking about, because I think this can help a lot of people, right? There's businesses that are stuck. Sometimes it's the business owner that's making them stuck. Take a Dale Carnegie course. I think in Fargo, is the closest one to us. Or
there's one in Grand Forks, Travis's.
Okay, yeah. So, but take the course and I did the public speaking one. I mean,
I got that one coming up this fall. They're like, so here's the fun part. I haven't taken the course that they're like, we're having. They're like, no, because I mean, I've read his books like 3 times. They're like, we're gonna have you take this course. I'm like, which one's that? And it's the speaking one and the like high impact presentation.
Yep, that's the one
like,
I did.
Okay, I failed this in college. How's this gonna go again? And
you're gonna do fine.
I love it.
But
Dale Carnegie is awesome.
Yeah, Dale Carnegie is a great program. How to win friends and influence people. Like there's so many good things that guy understands psychology so well. But yeah, it's helped my company. I think it can help anybody, and it'll teach you how to problem solve and maybe even help you with your kids.
Yeah, it
probably will.
Got to bed on time.
So what's your whole entrepreneur? You're an entrepreneur too at heart. I can just tell, right? Like you might be on the integration problem solver side, but what's been the hardest part? If you had to select one thing and pulse one thing out, like what is the hardest part of your journey? Was there a low point that you pulled yourself through, or
I'd say, and it was
something that sticks out to you.
Yeah, I mean,
and how you overcame it.
So this is going. I mean, some people say, I don't know. I'll tell you about it. And it's so about 4 weeks ago, I was on prednisone for good gravy, my 4th round antibiotics. I was fighting infections in my face and sinus and stuff, and it wasn't fun. And during that time, I gave 3 vials of blood. Now I've given blood before, but this time I looked around, I was like, yeah, this is not going well. Like I'm like, something's not right. And so while I'm in there, I faint, and I was like, I could see, it was just black, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to sleep, and just out. And now people faint in the hospital.
They're drawing your blood.
Yeah,
that's all they were doing.
Just 3 little vials. Not like I wasn't like donating blood or anything. I was just given 3 vials, and but in that moment, and this was like a month and a half ago, and I've been doing a lot of stuff. I think in short, it'll be a balancing act. But what it was is I'm in the hospital. I fainted, and while I was out, and it was terrifying for me, and it really woke me up. But I had a dream while I was asleep. They say. My wife and my kids were sitting on a bench, and they were leaning forward and just crying, and I could see it, and I was just like, it's all going to be okay. It's just life changes, and it'll be all right, and you'll be okay. Like I was saying goodbye to my family. I'm like,
oh my gosh.
And yeah, it was terrifying. And I woke up and I was like, what happened? And like, I was like, well, I just had a dream that I was saying goodbye to my wife and kids. They're like, you had a dream? I was like, yep. And so then they put because
this probably wasn't long.
No, I mean, it wasn't that long. I mean, it felt like I was in that dream for an hour. Like, I mean, it felt a lot longer. And when I woke up, and then they took my blood pressure. I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, all right, he's at 70/30 or whatever. I'm like, I don't even know what that number means. But one of the guys' face, when I told him I had the dream, his face just went white. And I'm like, what does this mean? But for me, it was really a self-reflection. And I'm big in my faith. And I'm like, this is the reminder that it's very easy to become so like conflicted with your time. I mean, when you're married with 4 kids, I mean, like I said, I love my kids. I love my wife more than anything. And I was like, all right, how do I balance time? That was the number one thing. Cause I mean, I've been up since 4. Like I go to bed and I'm just up. Like my alarm's set for 5:30, but I like get up at 4. I'm like, all right, my brain doesn't shut off. It's a trait from my dad and my twin brother have it. We just go. And so when you're in that, you gotta find a way to just relax and enjoy what's going on, because it's easy to go 100 miles an hour.
So how do you do that?
Well, I'm still working on that. I mean,
what tactics are you working on? I mean, I'm not saying you found the perfect tool, but
for me it was reading. Like, I mean, I love to read, and so there was a big part where I would disconnect, and I would just be like, I just need to read. And my wife could see that, and she's like, all right, you need an hour, don't you? I'm like, yep, I need 1 hour to myself. I'm gonna read, and then I'm good for 3 weeks. But I just need that. I just need that time. So I mean,
sure.
Again, finding a way to step back and just take some time for yourself and find some. I mean, I love everything. It's very hard for me not to enjoy things. I'm like, all right, I got to find a way to find something fun. And so for me, I love to read. I mean, so I just
that's cool
for that. Just take some time and
sit and focus and wind down.
Yeah.
You know, as entrepreneurs, your minds are all over the place, and you're always trying to get more done and want more and everything to be perfect.
Everything's an opportunity.
Everything is, yeah.
I mean, they're like, hey, we're going to start this with them. I'm like, yep, I'm in. And so, and part of that too, the solution is also getting out of some businesses. I mean, that's a reality. It's like, all right, where's my time best spent right now? And if, you know, I use the laser analogy. I mean, when it's all over the place, you can look right at it. But if you narrow it, I mean, it's pretty sharp on points. I'm like, all right, so I need to get a little bit more focused. I mean, it's a child analogy, but it's true. It's like, I just need to get focused. And so I'm not spread so thin.
Yeah.
So stepping away from some businesses has had to happen, because I'm like, it's not, my return on my investment on my time doesn't seem like I should be doing that.
Okay.
And so yeah, and that's a challenge too as an entrepreneur. You got to learn, like, where should I put my time?
Yeah.
I mean, and can you advance that business or not? And is it, I mean, so that's part of it too. I mean,
okay. Yeah. No, I like that, man. That's good.
Yeah.
That was good stuff. Yeah. The more you focus on anything, I mean, you're going to probably do better. I mean, and most companies do a lot better when they narrow the focus.
Yeah.
And many people on this podcast, it's like, I was spraying and praying and then focused in and got really good. And then all of a sudden I had success. So you'll find the same story, even if you're a struggling entrepreneur listening to this and you're like, I don't know, it's shiny over there. It's cool over there. It's better over here. It's greener over there. And you find all that. But when you start focusing, you start narrowing, you start winning. And
once you figure out the process,
the same across the board.
Yeah. Once you got it, you're like, all right, this is the one that works. The process works. It's all good. Go there. Follow that. Like my dad always told me, he goes, once you're in the river and it's flowing, stay in the river. It's a lot easier to get downstream instead of getting out and trying to fight it. Once you're in there, just go with it. Yeah. I mean, that's helped. But yeah,
I like that, man. That's good. Well, how are you pretty risk adverse? Like, do you like to take risks, or do you leave that up to Mike?
Mike loves to take risks. Yeah, he's the risk taker. And there's days I'm like, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to try. Like, I love to try things, and I love to ask why, and then let's do it and let's figure it out. But
you tell him no, then? You probably should.
I don't know. I try not. I mean, I'm honest.
He doesn't want to hear the word no.
Yeah, and so and actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. One of the gentlemen, is kind of like a mentor, Brian. He said, it was very impactful for me, because he actually told Mike, he goes, there's one thing I learned from Ben, and it's that you don't get to say no. Like, I don't believe in the word no. Like, and I don't say, I'm like, hey, I'm in this role, and I'm in the, like, I might have a title, but I don't care about my title. Like, and it has nothing. It's just like, you don't get to tell me no, because I will find a way. And it's not to be like prove anybody wrong. It's like, there is a way. You just got to find it. Like, no is not an answer. Some people don't like that, and they're like, we can't do that. I'm like, why? Like, tell me why. And that's where my problem solving, like, that brain, I'm like, you don't get to tell me no. And so, and and me and Mike talked about it the other day too. It's like, no is not an answer. Like we just, and we do it in an encouraging way. It's like, if you don't say no, you can overcome something. But if you say no, you give up. And I don't like to give up. I don't like to say no. I don't, sometimes you have to say no, like I said a little bit earlier, but it's like, no is not really an answer. No, it's, yeah.
Even when sometimes you should, like you said before, it's like, but you have to give it a shot and you have to fail and move forward, right?
Yep.
And lived and learned and went on. So how do you're a guy that doesn't sleep a lot. You're very motivated, self-motivated, and through your faith and through other things, what else like really like drives you? Like what keeps this motivation so laser lit all day?
Honestly, it's the joy of it, man. I mean, once you enjoy the process and the journey of life, and I love making an impact on people's lives. I want people to have a good life. And when I can see that actually come to fruition, I'm like, and it's not like I did that, because I actually don't care that I did it, but I'm like, I get to see like their joy. I'm like, they have a good life. Like and it's in everything. But I love, I mean, it is ingrained in me. I had a conversation once with somebody, and I told them what I did in life and what I like to do, and they're like, yeah, you're in this like 2% profile of like lean manufacturing brains. Like you just think differently. And I'm like, is that a superpower? And that's so for me, but I love it. I love to fix things for people so that they don't have to think like it's not accomplishable. Like you can figure it out. And so fixing things for people. And I mean, I think it might be just I don't know, generation. I don't know what it is. I love to fix things for people. I'm like, how can I help you? And I'm not saying I'm the best at it. I mean, there's many times where I've tried and I'm like, this didn't work. And I'm like, I can't fix that. And it's not doing what I thought it would do. And I'm like, and it's individuals too. I'm like, I poured my heart and soul into this. Now it's turned to 180. I'm like, what went wrong here? And I'm like, so it's like, that's again though, for me though, is I want to help and I want to fix things. And I'm motivated by that better good of like, all right, how do I help people? How do I fix things? How do I address that with them? And I mean,
is that just driven into you, like your motivation to help people? Like, is that
I love to, I do
passionate about that?
Yeah. And it's sometimes a struggle. I'm like, I'll give you everything you want. I'm like, is that going to actually help you? Like, how do I actually help you become a better you? Like, I want you to have a good life. I want you to enjoy life. I want you to succeed. And there's challenges. I mean, I look at them like, it's perspective. Again, it's just looking at people and going, well, they didn't, like, I look at my father and my mother are amazing people. And I was raised in a good home. And so for me, it's like, I look at them, I'm so thankful for them. And I could never be ungrateful for what they've done, what they've led me in and how they taught me. And I look at others, I'm like, maybe they didn't have what I had. I'm like, I want to be to them what my dad and my mom were to me. Like, they cared for me. They taught me. They were genuine. They believed in me. They were never, my dad, I can't remember a time he yelled at me. Not once I remember him yelling at me. He was always encouraging and correcting, but in a way that I never felt defeated or I felt my dad hates me. Like, I never felt that.
Motivated you then.
Yeah. And he's always believed me. It's like, even like, he's like, you can do whatever you want. He goes, I'll always love you. I'm like, there's nothing I can do. He has unconditional love for his kids, and it's the craziest, coolest thing to do. So I look at other people, I'm like, do they have that or not? I don't know. And they might, but I still want to offer that to them. I want them to be cared for. And so, but it's like, sometimes I'm like, what can I do? And I'm like, I can't do anything yet. Well, maybe someday I can. And so planting a lot of seeds, and then sometimes it comes full circle. And I'm like, hey, now I can help them do this. Or, so I loved connecting with people and like, hey, how do you like your life? What do you like doing? Well, I want to do something different someday. Okay. Opportunity arises. Maybe we can plug you in here, plug you in there. Like,
sure.
But yeah, helping. It is self-motivated. I think it's a gift I've been given. Because some people are like, yeah, I want to solve problems for a day, and they're like, yeah, I'm bored with it. I'm like, every day I'm like, what can I do? Like,
did you ever struggle? Like, I mean, and I just know integrators probably struggle with this because like you want to go in and solve the problem, and you want to solve it now, and you want to get through it. And I'm guessing here just that you went through a phase where you're solving people's problems instead of doing like the 1-3-1 rule, or like, did you start out? Obviously, you didn't start out there. Yeah. You probably started out by solving other people's issues. I don't really know. And then how did you realize that and back yourself out? Like don't go do the shit for them. Like, pull yourself back.
Well, it's to teach a man to fish or feed him. Like, I mean, and that's kind of where it clicked one day. Because I looked at my plate, and there was a day my wife looks at me and she goes, "Are you tired?" I said, "I'm mentally exhausted." And when you have that mindset of working with people and problem solving, there are days where you're just shot. Like, I don't do the physical labor that the laborers are doing. Like, I mean, in the concrete, I'm just like, they got to be exhausted. And there's days people like me, like, well, you didn't do anything. I'm like, sure. Like, my brain is fried.
Yeah.
And it was at that point I was like, all right, how do I change this? Dale Carnegie was huge. I mean,
Okay.
I read one of his books. I'm like, yeah, like, I can't solve everything, but I know other people can.
Yep.
And I want them to be part of that solution, because I do genuinely want people to be like motivated in life and know that they add value to everything. Like, I really love people and I want them to be cared for. I'm like, well, if they can be motivated and actually see like there's a benefit, why not? Why not get them involved? And then that rule, after a while, it was life changing. I'm like, well, give me 3 solutions. And there's so many books out there. I mean, it's easy to throw a book at this. There's the No Complain Rule by John Gordon. It's like, don't complain. That adds no value. Yep. I mean, but for me, I have to look past that. I'm trying to teach people, like, don't complain. Don't tell me no. Let's get to the root of the problem. Let's break it down. And can we fix it or not? Or is it something we just have to deal with? Because sometimes complaining is like, they think you can fix that. It's like, no, that's just, it is what it is. And that's part of the job. And sometimes it might not be the perfect solution, but we also need to do stuff. Like, that's part of just working.
Yep.
But it took me a while. I mean, I was helping everybody. And there's the power of saying no. I mean, there's that was the thing. Like, all right, I'm not going to listen to complaining right now. Come back. Let's take a break. Bring me the solutions, and then let's decide something. But just to complain.
Yeah. Well,
that gets exhausting.
I just figured that you went through that phase, because if
yeah.
you're a problem solver, that means you're solving everyone's problems, I'm sure, at some point. And
100%.
then you got worked down and broke down and overworked, and fires were everywhere, and Ben's phone's ringing off the hook because he's the man.
It was phone call, and I mean, like I said, there's not one person in the company that I wouldn't answer the phone for.
Oh, okay.
And but it is like, and also, but watching people take that step, that now I'm trying to build their confidence. Like, you can make the decision. Like, I trust you. Like, and that's the biggest thing, and that takes time. Any relationship takes time, but trust that's a big factor. And once you have that, it's like, then it's like, all right, now I got to build your confidence. Like, you can make that decision. I trust you. Like, and I've had this conversation a couple times, but I've never yelled at anybody. Like, in the workforce, I've never just went off on them. I don't believe that gets you anywhere. And I'm like, I try to build that. Like, have I ever yelled at you? And they're like, no. I'm like, so what are you worried about? Like, have I ever hounded you for not doing this, that?
Right.
No. I'm like, okay, like, trust me. Like, I want them to trust me, because I'm not here to like condemn them and hold a rod over their neck and be like, hey, you got to get this. Like, I don't get, but I'm like, hey, do you guys see the reality of what's going on? You didn't stay late and do the job, so I stayed late and did it.
Right.
Am I angry at you? No. Do you see that, like, I will help you out, but do you see there was a project that had to be done and you didn't do it? It's like, you guys probably should have done that. But I want them to trust me that it's for the greater good of the company, and it's what's good for the company is key. That's how we kind of look at the success. It's like, is it good for the company? But yeah,
I'm sure that's why Mike. So you started off, I mean, you were in the fabrication shop, which is you're bending rebar.
Yeah.
For huge concrete jobs.
Yeah.
Which is,
we take 40-foot steel, cut it down. I mean, there was one day I think I bent like 2,500 sticks into the right angle. I mean, but you have to go through that process to see and really like put yourself in that position. And I mean, last night I was bending rebar because there was something that had to get done. And so like 2 guys were there, and I'm like, all right, so I'm looking at the process, because usually it's just 1 guy, but there's 3 of us. I'm like, so I get the bar, and right as he moves his hand, I'm like, slide it to him. And so we're bending 1,000 pieces in a couple minutes, because it was like, we had to get the process down and get it down. But I mean, yeah, I was.
Oh, so you're in there trying to figure out.
Yeah, I was like, hey, apparently this I'm like, all right, let's go. And I had my backpack on. I was ready to go home. I'm like, no, let's get this done quick, because we had to get it done. Like, it was kind of a little bit of a surprise kind of thing. But we kind of have weeded that out a lot over the years, because we're like, those last minute things, let's try to be proactive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was.
How did you keep going though? Like, how did you go from the rebar bending guy?
Yep.
How did you, did Mike see it? Did someone else see it? How did you keep moving forward?
I would keep going to Mike with like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. Cause I saw it like, how do I improve? Like, I wanted it simplified, and I looked at it, and that's where it really kicked off. Cause I mean, my brain is that lean. How do I go from A to Z to fastest? Lean manufacturing is like, you cut out all the waste. And so then I went from there to managing it, and then I learned the software, figured out how it was an Excel program, figured out how it operated. I would look at the code and go, okay, like, can I add this? Just simple things, and then it would switch it. And granted, some of this platform was there.
Okay.
It's just I looked, how do I change it a little bit? Well, that also affected later. We have a gentleman in our IT department, and I asked him, just a question about programming. He goes, yeah, I went to school for computer programming. I was like, okay, come with me. And I said, hey, what do you think about this? And then like that's what he did. And he's crazy good at it. A crazy talented guy. It's Phil. Grand Forks.
Yeah. God, he's great.
And
he's
super
been around
smart.
since I started concrete.
And I worked at Structural in 2007 when I was going from high school to college.
Oh.
And so Phil was there then.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just an awesome dude. And, but it really was looking for opportunities to fix things. And I think I would go to this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And he's like, all right. Like, it was pure motivation to make things better. And he likes that. And when he sees that, he wants to put people in the right position to succeed.
Yep.
And ultimately I want him to succeed in everything he's doing. I'm like, well, I want to succeed. I just want to do well for you. I mean, I work for him.
Yep.
And so every opportunity I had, I'm like, how do I make better? How do I make it better? How do I remove it? And he kept seeing that. I'm like, he's like, yep, do it. Like, it got to a point where he's like, I don't need to really ask you to do it. He's like, no, just do it. Like, and so like he trusted me, and that was a big moment for me mentally, because like I was like, am I in the right position? Like, should I be doing this? And somebody made the comment to me, do you think he would put you in that position? And are you questioning his decision making? I was like, that's a good point. Completely never. I was like, all right, why am I doing this? But I mean, he saw that in me, so I trusted him fully, and I was like, all right, he's got to have a reason, got to have a plan. So I went with that and I followed him. Wow. And so he just kept putting me different. And he's like, take care of it, and that's what. Yeah.
How did the rest of the team? Because I'm sure these guys have been here probably long as you, or I mean, you have long-standing employees that are, and you kind of whittled your way up the
kind of moved
and you built the trust of these people. I mean, was there any backlash?
There's a few.
Yeah, right. You're just gonna have that, right?
Yeah, and that's I mean, I think for me, I always look at pride. Pride is the downfall. I mean, that's the thing. Pride comes for the fall, and I don't want to be prideful ever. And that for me, that was like I could see it in others. I'm like, I remove the emotion, and I would learn to create the relationships and actually care, and they could see that I'm not out for their job. Like, that was never the thing. I'm like, hey, I want to do this so I can be in charge. Like, that's not the key. The key is this is my skill set, and they see that, so I'm going to do what they want.
Yep.
Because it's their company and they trust me. And most people were like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, most people, I would say that was the key, because I would try to help them. I mean, that was the thing. I was like, how can I help you? And it didn't matter what part of the company you're in. I wanted to help you. And I think that built a lot of trust between a lot of them, because there's nobody in the company I'm like, yeah, I really never want to talk to you. Like, I generally want them to have a better life. So if in work I can figure it, and one guy, I was like, hey, he just needs a right-hand man. It's like, that will help him a ton, because that's what he needs. Let's find a way to get him that. Yeah. And it's like, and I think that's been proven. I mean, I enjoy helping, and I think most people have seen that. There's been, some, but that's just part of the journey. Like you said,
you get seniority. That's a lot of people are loyal, and seniority is. Yeah. I hate when let's just talk about bid manufacturing jobs. All about how long you've been turning that bolt or whatever. It's like, I've been here 22 years doing the same. It's like I don't. If someone comes up quicker, they obviously outpaced you, and they wanted more.
And that's where, if somebody does better than me, I'm like, good for them.
Yeah.
I'm content in who I am in my life with my wife and my kids, that if somebody came along and I was like, yeah, you're gone, I'm like, okay, what's next? I don't want to harm anybody else's success based on my pride saying I'm better than you. Because I'm like, what good does that do anybody? There's no value there.
Right.
What good does it do to break them down when they're trying to succeed? I've always struggled with that. I'm just like, why are we trying to, especially inside a company? I mean, that would be for me, I'm like, good, go. It's encouraging for others and good for them. If people succeed and do good, I'm going to do the best I can do. And if it's good enough, great. If it's not, somebody else is going to do it. You seen The Greatest Showman?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies. And there's the scene where he's sharpening the pencil and he looks out and there's all the crosses.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing I've always told myself and told everybody else is we're all replaceable. We leave this earth. Why are you fighting to get there sooner?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Why make somebody else's life worse to get there? It's
yeah.
It's just I don't know. I don't know. I want people to actually enjoy it, not have to fight and I hate pride. Pride is the number. It's just let pride go to the back. Just deal with it. Enjoy who you are and what you do.
Yeah.
If you can do that, all the other stuff doesn't matter. I mean,
Yep.
if you can be content, and a lot of people are like, content's being lazy. I'm like, no, content is enjoying where you're at and enjoying that moment. Lazy is just literally being lazy. There's
Yeah.
two different words, but people have muddied it now. And it's like, if you can be content with who you are and enjoy that, who cares if somebody's better than you? Like, good. Congratulations.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I'm gonna pivot just a little bit, like in the culture, which we are
Yep.
talking about. I think it's just culture and how your company's shaped. We're big proponents of that and lower turnover. We do all sorts of stuff with as a company. Like in EOS, you got to meet quarterly with all your employees and talk to them.
I still got to get into that. So let's have a podcast on that.
We'll get you there. Yeah. That'd be a whole nother podcast. But it's like, we do all these different things. I think last week we had like our events committee like put on like, I don't know, they did jokes. Like it was something every day. It was Construction Appreciation Week.
Yep.
So we're always doing stuff. It costs money to do this stuff too,
it's
right?
not free.
No, hell no.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of planning and people got to do it. And what are some of the ways that you guys do it?
Yep.
I mean, I know some of the ways that I did and shared them, but
we're talking about doing a lot of that.
Okay.
So the last couple of years we've been going to the horse races.
Okay.
Doing some fun of that. I've talked about doing paintball. Everybody's got aggression they want to get on. I'm like, let's go play paintball. I played as a kid. I like Sioux hockey. I mean, my grandfather played Sioux hockey.
Okay.
My mom ran Sioux track, and like I went to NDSU, but I had a Sioux chair in my dorm room, so it's kind of, I wore my jersey around campus one time, and the teacher goes, "Yeah, if you do that, we're not going to let you pass." Like jokingly, but I was like, "Yeah, this was really not a good decision. I did not. This was a problem I created. Now I got to solve again." But so it's getting them to be engaged together as a group. And like our Bismarck store, they're going to a comedy show together, and it's like, I mean, and it's hard when everybody's spaced out.
Yeah.
Mike has done we have a Christmas party. Mike's been doing that for years, and it's this year we're going to Kingpins and over there. And
Sweet Shots, that'll be fun.
And then we do that. I mean, Sweet Shots is right down the road, and so it's fun because it's golf, and you can go out for an hour for lunch. Sometimes we just get a few, and I'm like, hey, let's go spend time together.
Yep.
And so, and that can be a challenge when the company is, I mean, Structure's got roughly about 100 employees through it. So it's like, how do you be fair to everybody? And that's a challenge too. But it's like, you try to be intentional, like, hey, let's go. Hey, some of it's on the fly, some of it's planned, but it's really spending time with them inside and outside of work. And it's, again, something Mike's taught me really well is like, you set up that time and that's intentional. I mean, the Christmas party is huge. I mean, we have everybody there, and you get to meet everybody's families, and you get to see the kids running around, and it really is a lot of fun to do that. So, I mean, but it's going forward. I mean, it's something that I want to keep doing more of, and just be like, hey, how do we do this maybe more often, but maybe just in smaller increments. But it's
like we can't always get together as a whole group. We do it 3 times a year, Christmas, and then we have 2 quarters. But like end of quarter 3 now.
Yep.
Concrete where we live, concrete's got to get on the ground here before Christmas, otherwise it ain't gonna happen.
Yep.
Without a lot of money anyway. It can go down, but so we do a video version of it and have some fun with it. But we spend a lot of time. We do you got just like a luncheon or whatever.
We'll bring
picnic in
bring
the
food
park
in a lot, and just I want to do paintball. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I like that. I was asking kind of how what else you do that maybe we could get a value from if you've had a lot of success.
SMI Mac paintball, we can
SMI paintball, Mac versus SMI.
Yeah, well, we'll split. Yeah, maybe we'll mix the team so it's not we're on the same team. So.
Oh no, it's Mac versus SMI.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Cool. What's one of your best investments and one of your worst investments?
One of the worst was day trading. There you go.
Oh, trading.
Wasting money in the idea that I can make money trading stocks.
So how would you overcome that? What do you do differently now?
I quit doing that. Yeah, no, I just let my money work for me and just let it sit there. I mean,
long term.
Yeah, I'd say one of the best investments was the first business I started was the wedding venue.
Cool.
That was by far. I mean, it was a lot of sweat. I mean, I calculated. I was like one summer, I think I was making. I was helping pour the concrete. I mean, I helped code the web. I mean, I did everything, lay the rebar, and I was like, I made $2 an hour doing this. Like, is this gonna be worth it, kind of thing? And then, but you look back, and sometimes you don't get to see that right away. And that was one of the real estate investments, you could say, because now I live there, and it's a beautiful place. It's our slice of heaven in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's the coolest sunsets in the world, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And one of my good mentors says, the sunset can't love you back, or that property can't love you back. I'm like, yeah, but my wife loves it, so we ain't going anywhere.
That's all that matters.
Yep.
She's happy. Well, if you can solve all the brides out there's problems, then you must have like a genius tool.
There was one bride. No, this is a good story.
Yeah,
So,
let's do it. I can't wait.
There's one that, like, I mean, and I use this analogy a lot in the dealing with conflict with people and just reality of perspective. Is we had 2 weddings one weekend. I mean, we had 6 inches of rain. Like, my truck had water through the doors. It was not good. I mean, nobody wants that. And I'm like, we had a tent at a wedding tent at the time, and since then we built a different barn, like a stable, like a horse stable. But we had a tent at that time, and me and my dad. I mean, that man works harder than anybody I've ever met, and he's out there helping me like hold it down in the wind. I had my bobcat tied to one of the ends so it wouldn't fly away. Kind of, it was bad. The stakes. I mean, we would pound the stakes in the ground, and they would just come up, and it just got to a point where me and him were just looking at each other. The tent blew over, and we just started laughing. Like, what are you gonna do? And it was not a good outcome for me mentally dealing with that. Because, I mean, I got nasty letters, and it's like, what do you... I stayed up till 4 a.m, putting all the tables and chairs in the barn that we did have so that we could at least be out of the weather, and the ground was soaking wet. And there's no good solution here, but it was my fault. And I'm like, it's the one thing I don't control is the weather. Like, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other things, but, like, that's the main thing. Yeah. But then the bride the next day, she's just more than grateful for it. Like, it was the same weekend, and I had 2 responses, and I was like... And I was like, that's reality. You get to choose how you react. I don't care what people tell you. Your choice on how you react is your fault. Yeah. Or benefit. Like, it's up to you. And so that was one event. But the event that changed my life dealing with problem solving was there was a gal that got and I knew them, the guy and the gal getting married, and she looks at me and she goes, I go to school for psychology. I'm like, okay. She goes, no, I'm a therapist. I'm like, that's what she's like, I'm almost done. She goes, but for some reason, she goes, I can't figure you out and why you make us calm. And I was like, okay. And I almost went to like a weird mental state for like a couple of weeks. I was like, now the bar's here. I'm like, what am I doing? Like, then I'm like, how am I? It didn't make sense. My brain really struggled, but I'm like, no, it's just who I am. And wow. I became like, it's not, I don't know. It's not like some crazy thing or I do or anything, but I think it's just something that it's more of a natural thing. I don't know. I want people to have a good life. I'm like, it's going to be all right. Like, it might rain. Who cares? Yeah. It's water. Like, it's right. It's not the end of the world. I mean, yeah. So, but that was, and I still remember that exactly when she said it and everything. Cause I'm like, that's an interesting take on what I do. Cause I'm like, maybe I should have been a therapist. Like, it was like and she's
you kind of are part therapist. Like,
I am. Oh yeah.
In business, you have to be part therapist.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You have to be like, all right, bring in the emotions. Let's figure it out. And like, how do I address this without offending? And then how do I make it like not, like, how do I do that? Yeah. Oh yeah. And so, yeah, you have to be able to handle your emotions and their emotions and come out with an outcome that's good for everybody. Yeah. Otherwise it can be not good. So
you got to read people's body language. You got to understand who their personality is, build this genius solution that somehow motivates them and they felt like they win. Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
you are,
it's fun.
You are a therapist.
Yeah. I like to someday I'm like, I am that. And I've had people confide stuff in me. I'm like, why would you tell me that? Yeah. I think I'm supposed to tell you this. I'm like, that's like, and there's some crazy stuff I've heard, like, not like, but I mean, it's dark. And I'm like, I don't want you to experience that in life. Like, how can I actually help you get out of that? But I do say, I'm like, so, I'm not a therapist, but I mean, it's not bad to seek help. I mean, I'm all for people seeking help. I think it's wise. Oh yeah. I mean, there's some dark things in our world, and there's good and evil, and it's prevalent. It's like, how do you overcome that though? And some people people face demons. It's not, you can see it. And it's like, oh yeah, it sucks. Oh yeah. Like, how do you help them through that? And
some people, just always see the worst in everything, and it's hard to get them out of that. And I don't really know. I leave that up for guys like you, Ben.
Yeah, thanks. I like it.
Yeah. What's one of your biggest fears?
That's like a good one.
Yeah. Well, you can think on that. That always
my biggest fear in the last was when I said goodbye to my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was probably the biggest wake up call I think I had. Cause it was, and some people go, well, that was just on your brain when you pass. I'm like, nobody thinks about that when they're passing out. I was thinking about like I said goodbye. I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to sleep, and just out. Like, I wasn't thinking about saying goodbye to my wife and my kids. I'm like, it was weird. And so, that was the biggest fear. I mean, I never wanted to lose them. I love my kids. They love me. My wife loves me. I love her. And that was, when I was younger, I never wanted to disappoint my dad. not out of fear, but I respected him and I wanted his trust. Cause he was one of the best fathers you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
But I wanted to like show him, not to like gain his approval, but I want to do it because I want him to know that I am proud of him and know that I am his son. And he's done such an amazing job. So it was like, don't want to fail for my dad and like make him proud. But I did want him to be proud. I mean, yeah. So family, that was a big thing. Losing my family, that's not fun.
No.
That was
it's all you have at the end of the day, you know.
I'm not afraid of failure. That's the one thing I've learned. Like, you can get back up and fight. Like, it's just like failures can't be an option anymore. And saying no, it's like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, failure comes. That question gets answered with failure a lot, and
you learn.
You know, and no one wants to fail at the end of the day. But if you're not scared to fail, I think that's where the 1% shine.
Yeah,
I mean,
what's the worst that's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Oh, well then we'll figure it out.
We'll problem solve.
Yeah,
we're gonna rewatch this podcast. We're gonna listen to everything Ben and Marc said, and we're like,
solutions. Like
Yep. Where do you think you'll be 10 years from now? 2033.
Hoofda.
Could be October 2033. Where are you at? What's the vision?
I mean, pumpkin spice latte. No, I don't.
It's a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
Where would you see yourself if you close your eyes and?
Yeah, I do that a lot. I'm like, and that's what I do to everybody that I'm working. I'm like, paint the picture 5 years from now. Do you see these persons involved in your situation? Like, no. I'm like, all right, how do we handle that? What do you want to do? And I have
so now you're the doctor of this game.
Yeah.
Now you need to show us the way.
Yeah, and it's for me, it's like, I mean, I love what I do, and I know I'll always be involved doing that. I also love what I do for my faith, and I want to tell people about the gospel. I think that's, for me, it's like, when I ask people, they're like, hey, what do you want to do? I'm like, well, someday I want to tell people about the gospel and preach that to people. And they're like, you do? I'm like, and I go, do you want to stand on stage and tell people about what Jesus did? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, then I do. So I mean, that makes sense for me then, is like, so I envision myself helping spread the gospel. I envision myself helping structural. I mean, that's where my brain goes. I'm like, and then just watching my kids succeed in life. I want my kids to know that, you know, life is good, and not to let their mental state of success rely on the outcomes of this world. Because again, I mean, some of the most joyful people have nothing. I mean, but some of the most joyful people have stuff and they help people with it. I mean, I look at people that are very successful, and it's like, it's not about you. Like, that's the fun part. Like, you can be the most wealthiest man and have everything you want, but if you're not helping other people, you're going to take it all with you. Like, it's all goes away.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you impact the world, and how do you make somebody's life better? And so, yeah, I mean, those are the two main things. But I mean, for me, my focus wants to be for sure my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at them and my wife, I do not deserve. And I actually performed the wedding last weekend for my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. And then I was like, you guys are so selfless by, you know, saying, Ben, you can talk about whatever you want. And you said I can talk as long as I want. And I was like, I got an hour and a half now. I'm going to talk about whatever I want and talk about my wife. And like, I mean, that's a whole message in itself. I mean, she really is. She is a perfect gal. I mean, and so I'm very grateful for that. So I want to make sure like I do right by her and her, our kids, and her parents. I mean, they raised her. She is who she is because of them and her family. And so I want to do right by them for sure.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome, man. All right. The follow-up question that I always ask is, what does unfollow the herd mean to you?
Unfollow the herd. Is that it? I don't know. I mean, I can kind of, like, for me, I'm like, if you're thinking unfollow the herd, it's don't worry about what people think. Like, it's like, be who you are, and don't be afraid that somebody's, again, I was told I wasn't going to speak in front of people, wasn't going to do that. Don't go down that route. So the herd would have been, okay, go that way. I'm like, I just stand in front of people every day. It's literally what I do. So unfollow the herd does not take criticism from others or guidance and say that's law. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't let people tell me that's law anymore. Like, just because you said that, I'm going to abide by that just because, and they don't mean it in a bad way, but it's like, that's, to me, that's like, all right, separate yourself. Don't be the sheep just to be like sheep in wolf's clothing, or wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yeah.
Don't be the sheep and just do it. Like, step out and do something different that you want to do. I mean, it's your life.
Right.
Like,
well, and I think the fear of judgment, like you said, I mean, it holds a lot of people back, and there's really, I mean, it poured gasoline on your fire. Yeah. I mean, in college, that professor lit you up
Yeah,
Now
I was like, all right, I'm ready. And like for a while, I was like, what am I supposed to do then? But then I left school. I mean, to start my business, and here I am, like not supposed to do that, showing tours for the venue, and then like, I mean, I had booked the whole summer before my barn was done, and I'm like, holy crap, I got to do this now. But it was like stepping away from this idea that people can tell me what to do. And I mean, I take guidance for sure. I mean, surround yourself with wise people and listen to them and take counsel. I mean, that's biblical, and that's not even, I mean, it's just nature.
Yeah.
Wise people have advice to give. I mean, they wouldn't be giving advice if they weren't successful. I mean, there's things that they have. You don't have to follow everything, but there's something that might do it for you, and listen to that. But I don't want to listen to people that say you can't do this or you can't do this. Separate yourself from that and don't condemn them. Like, I don't think of that teacher and be like, that person was terrible, they ruined my life. I'm like, all right, they were trying to help me. But I took it as like, all right, so now I'm not going to be good at that. The reality was I learned from that conversation not to just accept what people say. And I don't answer to anybody. And I say this respectfully to everybody, but I don't answer to anybody but God. Like in the end of it, like when I get, like in my faith, I'm believing like when I get judged, it is not because, well, did I listen to you or did I listen to him? Like, it's like, and so I don't want that to be my capstone. It's like, well, he only got to this far in life in his calling because he listened to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to be he lived a life that he believed he was called to do. And,
wow.
I think that's the key to not following the herd, stepping away from the herd.
That's exactly. I mean, you can push through the fear of judgment. 99% don't and won't. But if you can use your faith to do that, and you're only answering to the big man, then no one else really matters.
No.
One hate comment is not going to leave me.
No.
That just pours more gasoline on the fire, really, for me too.
Oh yeah, it's like, all right, how do I show you? Like, not in a meme, but like, how do I use that for fuel? Like, what is the way? And it's like, all right, I'll twist that to make it. And that's the fun part about being an entrepreneur and a problem solver. And like, I mean, it's like you take things like, how do I use that? What's the opportunity to make this actually work then? Yeah. And then you just go.
Convert it. Yeah. I've had many, social media. It's like, it's brutal on there. And, it's like, I think I did one about like my Tesla steering wheel, which is like a half a steering wheel, right? Yeah. Like it's, but
we should
all the haters on there. It's like, I love the haters. It's like, it pushes the post further.
Well,
and I get more views.
We're in construction world. Yeah. And like everybody's driving diesel trucks. Then Ben pulls up in a Tesla. It just, you can imagine how that goes. And then you bring them for a ride and they're like, and for me, I like Tesla. I like Elon Musk. I can appreciate what's going on. And I'm just like, he's even stated that we need gas and electric. So it's like, I understand I'm not driving the most green car in the world, but it's also a really fun car to drive. Yeah. Like,
for the money, you can't beat it. You can't even touch it.
No, I mean, I think I've had mine for 17,000 miles now, and it's cost me like $450 in electricity or 500 or whatever. It's like, I'm okay with that. Yeah. And they're like, oh, did you have to stop at the supercharger and charge? I'm like, when's the last time you saw me at a gas station?
Yeah, right.
7 months ago. Yeah. Like, so the amount of time, it's just, they're good cars, but I mean, it's, social media will just destroy you. And I'm just like, guys, like, it's okay. Like, I still have my truck. Yeah. I like my truck. Like, you got to kind of have both. And it's, there's a happy medium there. But 4-wheel drive, 5,000-pound car in the winter, it's pretty sweet.
We're good. Yeah. Well, hey, if you can share this with somebody, an entrepreneur, business owner, someone struggling, want to solve problems, please share this episode. That is the only way. We don't advertise on here. Yeah. Literally just share this with anybody you can. And Ben, how can we hear more about you, or, how do you follow you? Do you use...
I mean, I got Facebook.
Okay.
Ben Jacob. I don't know if it's Mr. Ben Jacobson. One day I made it like the Ben Jacobson for fun.
Yeah. Well, someone's got a question on a problem. I think this is a lot of visionaries probably listening to this, a lot of entrepreneurs, but not a ton of integrators that know how to go in and solve problems quickly and efficiently and motivate people, which I think is like the key to business, right? Like you went in there and you told Mike, hey, I'm going to convert your business. I think we can do better things here. I think I can make this more efficient. I want to help
here. And and he's like, all right. And trusting me, and that's the key, is like gaining that trust of like, it's not for me. Like, I don't, like, if it works, great, but that's my goal. It's not about me. Okay. Like, it never was about me. It's like, how do I fix it? Like, and that was the thing. Like, I didn't want to paint him as like, hey, you got a problem here. It was like, but it was a new business growing, and so any bottlenecks, like, how do I help you? Yep. And it's and the visionaries, like, they're just go, and I'm like. Let's do it. Let's help you.
You got to have a good integrator. Ben, I appreciate you having you on, man. We'll do this again. Absolutely. We'll keep in touch.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate it.